Hello and welcome back. I'm going to wait till other people join us here in just a second. Um, I hope everyone's happy, healthy, safe. We are back here again in my home painting studio. A little different setup today. We're going to switch it up. So far in the last few weeks, more than a few weeks, it's been good like 5 weeks now. The last 5 or 6 sessions, we've been working on landscape painting specifically. But I would like to start approaching abstract painting. And abstract painting, it takes lots of different forms for lots of different artists. But for me, it really holds a very concrete foundation in alternative techniques and materials. So we're going to be talking a bit about some of the materials I like to use, experiment with. We're going to take a look at some influences of mine for abstract painting, maybe, and then we'll test out some of those materials. Some of the materials I'm going to talk about I have used in very small amounts for oil painting with landscapes, with some other types of techniques to create some different things. But for the most part, we haven't really delved into how those materials can be used to create really thick paint, really kind of transparent, glossy paint, different types of things that help create and make for a more interesting surface area on your painting and to create abstract surfaces. So a lot of my abstract painting revolves around, so a little bit of story time. Also, by the way, huge shout out to the school for getting this wonderful drawing desk. On Friday, I'm going to have a drawing lesson. Got my phone tripod set up there as well. You can actually see I started a drawing yesterday. A little drawing is a little skeleton inside this curvilinear perspective orb egg thing. Anyway, so let's talk about abstract painting. One, what is abstract painting specifically? Well, abstract painting has a pretty lengthy history, which I don't want to totally get into right now. We get a little bit into that in person in my Painting 2 class. And last year as well, my Painting 1 class, we watched a series called The Art of Abstraction, I believe, or I forget his name. It's something Collings. It's a British abstract artist, and he kind of goes through and talks about what abstraction is, why it's important, those things. So I'm not going to go into the history of abstract painting. I'm going to talk mainly about the abstract painting that I enjoy and how I go about making abstract paintings. And then we'll demo some different materials, things like that. So story time. The year after I the summer of 2015, I believe, was the summer right before my 5th year to get my teaching certification to become your art teacher. I had just finished my studio degree in painting, and I received a grant from Temple University for that summer to create a body of artwork. And it could be about anything I wanted, and I was really interested in deep sea exploration. So I wanted to redefine exploration in a more experiential way and parallel that to a studio practice. So trying to explore and discover in this experience through materials and parallel that to exploring the oceans and using different interfaces of mechanized production and the idea of mining for oil in the deep trenches of our oceans. And a lot of it's unknown. I got really fascinated with the whole history of exploring our oceans. And so I wanted to make some artwork about that. So I made these really big abstract paintings, and it all in all led to a series called Bath Escapes, which is a word that I kind of made up. It means to like a deep scene. Bathos means deep, and scape is kind of like a scene, like landscape, a seascape. It's this area, this wide open space. So Bath Escapes mean a deep scene, this like deep space to explore. And then from that series, it led to a series called Tides, which is kind of alluding to the tides of the oceans and these kind of like overarching ebb and flow of things, kind of stasis of life being this giant body of water and this place where all life comes from, and this kind of stillness or this utopian idea of gathering there and finding reflection in the surface and in the body of water. And so that led to some more abstract paintings like the one I'm about to show you. The very first tide painting I ever did was with a good friend of mine and actually the drummer in my music band, my rock band. His name's John Kaiser. He commissioned a painting from me, and it really pushed me to experiment with some different materials and create really rich surfaces on my paintings, really textured surfaces. And so I discovered lots of different materials in doing that. So this painting here, I think I showed it in one of my other videos too, very quickly. Right, you can see that this painting is extremely textural, kind of glossy in some places. You can see it from the side. Yeah, you can see just how thick off the panel. This is on a wooden panel, by the way. Wooden panel. So you can just see how thick on the surface this paint gets. You can see some areas are glossier than others. That's because I'm mixing different materials together, which, let's get into the materials. Let's play. All right. So first things first, when you're using alternative materials with your paint, right? Especially for me, I use a lot of oil-based products. So you want to make sure that your windows are open. And let's turn my ceiling fan on. All right, we want to have good airflow. Some of these things are a bit toxic. Not that you can't touch them, but you don't want to be breathing in the fumes so much. It's like spray paint, right? Those kinds of things, which I have used lots of spray paint in the future. And also because they're extremely messy, we're getting messy today. I've got my painting clothes on. I've got a pair of old boots, if you can see that. Painting shirt, painting pants, boots. We're good to go. Also, if you didn't notice, a big plastic drop cloth on the floor. We're going to be working on the floor. Now, there's a huge history to artwork being made on the floor. You know what? Actually, we're going to put you here in my seat and then angle down. Yeah, that's how we're going to do it. All right, perfect. So there's a huge history to painting on the ground rather than upright on the surface. Now there's a huge conceptual background to why that is, but for our purposes, it's on the ground. You can use the gravity of Earth basically to help control your materials. A lot of the materials we're going to be using are really liquidy and viscous, right? They want to pour and move around a lot on the surface, and also we're going to be using some powders and plaster and marble dust to mix into that paint to make it thicker, but it's just going to get messy. And if you have a drop cloth on the ground, it makes it so much easier and so much more capable to be cleaned up well. So I have a few different things here I want to show you. I have, let's move this forward right here. I have my big double-sized milk crate full of all kinds of different materials. So let's pull some of this out. Marble dust. We used this last time. We used marble dust last time in the landscape that's directly behind my head, right here, right? To thicken up that texture of my foreground to create that sand texture. We're going to be using this, mixing this into my paint, this nice, soft, fine powder, right? Something that's a little bit more chunky and a little bit more, can be a little bit more diverse is plaster. Like what you see, on walls, like it's building material, it's industrial, right? A lot of my paintings deal with creating a certain sense of serenity or sublimity or stillness out of, trying to create that sense of stillness and beauty out of stuff that is traditionally not used for that, used for something that's kind of has more of a connotation towards construction or destruction of city versus natural landscapes. So we're going to be mixing materials in my chock full of nuts coffee can, right? It's metal. It's got no plastic lining in it. And most importantly, it's got a lid. So it doesn't dry out over days and days and days. All right. So next I want to show you, I have a few different kinds of this, right? Wood finish. Now, it's got drips all over it because I've been using it a lot. But thank you to my good friend, other bandmate, Luke Carcelli. He knows I love wood finish, right? He got this for me for Christmas maybe 2 years ago, and I still have like more than half of it, which is excellent. So, Minwax wood finish. This is Honey 272. I also really like dark walnut, and I believe that I have, yeah, a red mahogany. Here's a smaller can of red mahogany. So these are different shades, and what this is traditionally used for is, you can see on the floor all around me, right? This wood grain. This wood was finished probably with a red mahogany tone, or this honey kind of color. And what you do, it's like your dining room table. You'll sand down that wood, really try to expose that wood grain nice and smoothly with sandpaper. And then you would traditionally rub the wood finish or brush the wood finish onto the surface of the wood, and then let it sit there for a little bit, and then wipe it away. And that way, at once, both seals it up, but also makes your wood look nice and beautiful. Now, the reason I love wood finish is because it kind of creates these nice brown tones when you rub it, and has this really interesting viscous quality, but also, if it's really, really dense, here, let me pull this painting. Or actually, here, I can just show you right here. If we take a look at this painting right here, you can see I move my camera. If I move my camera around it, you can see it's reflective, right? It's glossy, but it's also this really rich, dark black. You can see some of the drips maybe in the reflection there. And now that's wood finish, but it's laid on really, really thickly onto that wood panel. So it builds up over time, which is really nice. And I really like that idea of a surface that is at once both so dark you can't see through, but also reflective so you see yourself in it, to kind of, again, go off that idea of Bathyscaphe, that deep sea, and kind of this immersion of yourself and reflection of yourself through this unknown territory. So I have another, that's not, oh, here we go. Kona. Kona is just another type of wood, another can of wood finish here. And now we'll get into some, and again, I'm going to open up all these, show you them, and I have some different just like practice surfaces to show you on just how they work and everything. But for right now, I'm just kind of going through what I have. Okay, so again, here we go. We have clear brushing lacquer. I like to use this to create a nice matte finish. You can see it's clear satin, so it has that more matte. It's a little glossy, but reflective, but that more matte finish to kind of create these layers and layers and layers. And you can mix marble dust and other colors into this to kind of get these glazes that go over the entire surface. Again, here's another clear finish that I like to use. Actually just refinished my coffee table downstairs, and I used this as well as this to finish it, but polyacrylic. Now, this is kind of like, I honestly don't even know if it's exactly oil-based or water-based. It's this kind of like in-between zone. There have been a lot of developments of materials over time, especially in the last 50 years, to create these really strange hybrid materials for furniture making, house building, all that kinds of stuff. Buy this at Home Depot for like $10 or something. All right. I've got protective oil-based enamel. I once painted an ice cream truck with this freelance gig. So Rust-Oleum protective enamel, oil enamel paint. Got quick color spray paint. Again, this is just spray enamel black spray paint. We'll use a little bit of that. And for the most part, that is it. So what I want to do is grab some surfaces really quick. Here they are. Awesome. So I've got just some practice surfaces here. This was spray paint. You can kind of see it's a little shiny, a little glossy. It's spray painted with like some quick enamel. Got your normal piece of Luan board wood, 1/4 inch wood. and then a piece of masonite board that is primed with gesso. So we're going to check out some of these materials here. Let's see if I can balance you down here. Or actually, you know what? Let's just do one of these. We'll put you on my handy dandy. Oh, that's gorgeous. Look at that. You can see all my materials. And I can look up at your pretty faces. All right. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, there is a chat section. Please feel free to ask away. I know I'm moving kind of quickly through here. I wanted to keep this again at like around 30, 45 minutes, hopefully. Okay, so let's pop open one of these wood finish cans. How about it? Now, I just used this recently, so that popped open pretty easily, but it's just like an ordinary can of paint here, right? But as you can see, look how rich and black and glossy and viscous this is, right? So the first thing I want to do, the first thing we always do when we open a can of paint or any kind of oil-based material, liquid, we need to mix it, right? Paint is made up of two things. We've got our pigment, which is our color. We have our binder, which holds that color all together. So specifically for these gross alternative materials, I have my empty bucket full of crazy weird brushes that get totally messed up. And so we're going to take this messed up brush right here and we're going to mix up my wood finish. I'm going to mix it up, make sure it's nice. Consistency of my wood finish is good to go. All right, and then what I want to do is actually, I'm going to finish this piece of wood like I would normally, like you would normally use wood finish with this rag right here. So I'm going to dip just a little bit onto the bunched up rag I have here, right? And then we're going to rub that into that dry wood surface. And you can see it really brings out the grain. This is traditionally what the wood finish is used for. And I like to use these too. I don't know if I have too many examples. I actually like to, because I paint on wood panels that I build myself for the most part, I don't get my work framed, right? But what I do is wood finish the sides of the painting afterwards. That way it has that nice wood tone quality to it. Nice and finished. Ooh. All right, so that's what it looks like normally used. Now, but the way I really like to use it, the way I'm going to show you down here, if you can see. Let's aim myself a little better here. All right, so I have my wood finish here. Take it, and if I lay it on nice and thick, you know what, we're going to get a bigger brush for this. I'm going to get a bigger brush. Look how messed up this brush is. But it's okay, it doesn't really matter. We're going to just lay it on nice and thick. There we go. So you can see when you lay it down nice and thick in a non-traditional use of the material, you can see it's starting to drip around, but it lays on nice and thick and creates this really rich, glossy black color. And so if I mix some of this wood finish with some other materials, now we're starting to get a little weird. All right. A lot of contemporary philosophy and painting deals a lot with terms from alchemy. And so when I'm doing abstract painting, I actually like to approach painting in a way that is non-traditional, right? That it doesn't make me feel like I'm using paint. It makes me feel like I'm kind of role-playing, right? And so I like to think about alchemy a lot. Alchemy is the transformation of materials by combining different things together. Transmogrification and things like that. And so what we're going to do right now start to mix some materials together. So I have in some strange ways, I have my wood finish. I'm gonna go ahead and pour some of that into my coffee can. Then let's take some of this marble dust, right? So I have good ventilation. That's always really important, especially when using plaster and marble and construction materials. I'm gonna go ahead and pour some of this out. It kind of looks like chalk. I don't know if, yeah, you can see that. I'm gonna go ahead and pour a big amount of this into there. I'm gonna use the marble dust to thicken that wood finish, but it's also going to take away some of that super dark black glossy quality and kind of create a little bit of a matte finish. So in addition to the marble dust, we're going to use some of this plaster here. Remember, if you want to try any of these materials, please make sure you are being safe and careful. Make sure that you have good drop cloth cleanup. Make sure that your windows are open. You have good ventilation. It is not good to play around with some of these materials and not take the proper precautions. This is why we don't spray paint in our school currently. I know many of you really want to use spray paint, and as much as I would love to, right, we just don't have the proper ventilation things. So we have my plaster. It's going to look very similar. I'm going to go ahead and pour some of that into my can. All right. See, like it's even kind of like smoking a little bit. I feel like, all right, I like to pretend I'm like a mad scientist sometimes, mixing all these wacky materials together. All right, now we're starting to get somewhere. I wonder if you can. It's kind of turning into a little bit more of a sludge. Kind of looks like brownie mix. Don't eat this though. You don't want to lick a spoon after this. Trust me. So we're going to continue going with my plaster here. I wanted to get it to a nice chunky consistency, and then we might even actually add some wax into my concoction here a little bit as well. Oh, there we go. There we go. Might actually have put a little bit too much. Yeah, I'm going to need to add some. You know what? Let's add something else. Let's add some of should we add some clear lacquer? Let's add some clear lacquer. Let's open this bad boy up. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but that's kind of the excitement and kind of the point a lot of the times from abstract painting. So I'm going to take my paint mixer. Remember, you really want to, you can see, look, all that gunk right there on the end of my mixing stick. That's the binder that's separated from the lacquer consistency. And so I want to mix this together really well before I add it to my concoction over here in my other coffee can. And so this gets really messy, but this can be really interesting, really fun. When you start to play around with different materials, you don't necessarily know what's going to happen, right? And so that's the whole point of abstract painting, is to really delve in, explore, experiment a little bit, while also still being safe and being aware of the safety and hazard issues from using alternative materials. So this looks mixed pretty good. Set that down right there, and let's pour some right directly into my concoction. Gonna mix that up. It's nice and chunky right now. I'm trying to get it into this kind of sludgy. Oh, that's looking good. That's looking good. Let's see if you can see that from there. Oh yeah, a nice thick brownie mix. Might even add a little bit more wood finish because I want it to be a little bit darker, actually. So unlike chemistry, other sciences, or even cooking, right? Cooking is a sort of science in and of itself, the culinary arts. Unlike that, I'm eyeballing all of my measurements here. I'm not measuring anything out in particular. All of that looks really nice. Look at that nice, thick, dark sludge that we're going to use on my painting. That looks great. So let's talk really quick. Let's go for a little ride. I'm currently working on this abstract painting here to continue with my Tide series. Right? As you can see, I have it kind of dark, this kind of vignette of the dark material on the outside. And what I did was prime this with Venetian plaster, which is essentially pre-mixed plaster that comes in like a big paint can. But I really like, you can really see because of the light that's behind here, that nice chunky surface, right? Kind of looks like stucco on a wall you would find out in the city outside or something like that. You can hear that surface texture, right? So I'm working on this. But really, the reason I want to bring that up is because of what's called mixing your own black paint. Now, I would consider that paint that I used over there on that painting a black. I know many of you watching at home probably like that was a blue-green. It was like an aquamarine color. Doesn't make sense. But the original color was using several different types of paint, oil paint, Prussian blue, dioxazine purple, some phthalo green, right? Mixing that with wood finish to create this really dark color that when thinned out becomes that blue-green color, right? But it starts in this nice mixed black. You can see mixed black color. Now that's essentially what we're trying to accomplish here with this wood finish concoction we have going. So we're gonna slap this down onto a panel to really show you what the consistency of this material is like. And again, I think we're gonna just go ahead and use this messed up brush, and we're gonna apply it right here to this surface. So if I get it, kind of just looks like brownie mix, right? And it has, that's exactly what I'm talking about. See how much darker it is when it's much thicker on the side here, and then once you thin it out, you can really see the pigment and the color that is lying underneath. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna coat this whole surface in this concoction. And you can see looks like brownie mix, but it's now an oil-based material that I can work with to create this really layered, textured painting, really approaching the entire surface of the painting at once instead of trying to create some kind of focus on any particular area. Oh yeah, it's looking really good. The first time I think I ever really got interested in creating extremely textural works of art was from an artist whose name is Anselm Kiefer, which I know that I've shown many of my second-year students. You know, he is currently my favorite working artist. He is a German painter who creates a combination of abstract and landscape works on huge scales using really interesting materials. Like, he likes to collage different materials in, like cement or straw from like a field, or dirt and clay, ceramic. And he even goes so far as to pour molten lead and molten metals melted down onto his big painting surfaces. And what that does is just kind of create this really visceral, visual interaction with the viewer, and really extends beyond that two-dimensional surface, that picture plane of your painting, creates a painting that's somewhere in between a painting and a sculpture. It's not even really a painting or a sculpture at all. It's either of those things. It's these kind of, like I was saying before, these kind of like alchemical experiments. And that's really what a lot of abstract painting tries to do. It tries to become the non-painting, the painting that is beyond painting and transcends itself into something else, to kind of have this conceptual conversation about, for instance, like what I'm using building materials, these construction materials. And there's a huge history of abstract painting that, especially in contemporary art, is really influenced by these materials and determined by these materials, because many of these materials didn't exist, like I said, haven't existed for more than 50 years, more than 75 years. These paintings could never have been done back when Leonardo da Vinci or Raphael or Michelangelo existed in the Renaissance age. And so artists today are interested in creating works that are a reflection of the time that we live in, both conceptually in creating that conversation, but also in how they are physically made with the materials at hand. So many people talk about how many people in the art world, I should say, talk about how. Oh, did somebody? Oh, hi, Joe. I don't know who that is. Someone said something, but then looks like they took away the message. What was I saying? Oh, many people today in the art world talk about how they think painting is a dying medium, right? It's a dying art form because of things like digital painting or movie making and digital image construction, and also in the museums, things like installation and film art and sound art taking over these areas that were more commonly in the past dominated by painters, right? Are more about performance art, installation art, and digital forms of creating images. But I would like to say that painting is not a dead medium. It's not a dead art form, specifically because of this kind of alchemical and otherworldly construction of its materials and the experimentation you can get, right? It's more about the object than it is about the image. It's about overcoming that two-dimensional surface to create something that is three-dimensional and interesting, right? So you can see this glossy, dark black surface we just created with these materials all mixed together. Wow. You can see the ripples. Almost looks like the surface of water, which is excellent, which is what we are going for. Excellent. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to wrap up our video right here. It seems perfect at 33 minutes. Thanks for tuning in to my first lesson on abstract painting and alternative materials and techniques. If you have any questions, please let me know. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy, and stay home. Again, on Friday, for my students who are watching on Friday, we will have a drawing lesson. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to draw yet, but if you want to learn how to draw something specific, please, please, please reach out to me. Let me know. Because again, I want to teach you what you want to learn. So thanks for tuning in. This is Mr. Cody and his home art painting studio, and take care.